This is OffPlanet Radio.
I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. My headphones fell apart right in the middle of an intro. Isn't that great? Who made these headphones? What the hell is this? Goddamn. These things are made in the U.S. too. Crap. We make crap now. Holy crap. Okay, so my headphones fell apart. That sucks. It's pretty hard to do this without headphones. We're live. It's OffPlanet Radio. And I guess we end the year the way we started it. What an interesting year it's been. This is OffPlanet Radio, offplanetradio.com, and we are live on the Liberty Beacon Media Network, I think. all my meters are telling me we're live. It looks like we're booming, so if we're too loud, just turn the volume down. It's okay. And this will be the last live show in 2014. We'll return, I think, the second week of January. I have a show scheduled. There are some podcasts coming at the end of the year here. The website, offplanetradio.com. And there's a lot of things going on right now that are both interesting and disturbing. I posted this out on Facebook this week, and I will bring my guests up in a minute, so hang tight there, guys. But this article jumped out at me, and it just screams, no, it reeks. It's from the Huffington Post. It says, will ET be here soon? NASA brings scientists, theologians together to prepare. This is what I've been talking about for 5 years. This is exactly what I was talking about in all the work we've done on alien abductions, on UFO sightings, contacts. Behind the scenes, there is something very nefarious that's been going on, and this reeks of setup. The people behind this are the Jesuits, the Vatican. We have Brother Guy Cosmolagno, who's a Jesuit brother and an astronomer at the Vatican Observatory, along with a bunch of media people. And, oh, guess what? NASA, never a straight answer. And these are the people who are now going to stage disclosure. Are you kidding me? NASA has spent the last 50 years, along with the government and the military, suppressing anything that has to do with UFOs, suppressing anything that had to do with abductions or contact experiences, actively suppressing it. The military coming in on crash retrieval missions, shutting down sites, hauling evidence away, taking it off to bases. And now they want to lead us into this wonderful New Age dream of E.T., our brother. Give me a frickin' break. At the end of the year, I've got enough indignation left to say that be careful what you hear and what you see, because it smells like a setup. And with me live on the line tonight from Winnipeg, Canada, I think that's where they're at. Gosh, if I get my facts wrong, sorry guys. I have on the line 3 people, and we're going to talk with them. But first up tonight is energy healer Chris Kehler. Chris was here along with Whisper back in July of this year. When we talked about energy healing, we talked about Whisper and removal of alien implants, and they are live on the line with us right now. Good evening, gentlemen. You are live on the line with me right now. Please tell me I didn't switch that audio. I'm guessing, last week was a train wreck. This week may rival it, because nothing worked tonight. The stream didn't work, and I should have my guests on the line with me, but I'm not seeing them right now. Let's see. Bring them up. Okay, that's where we went horribly awry here. Here we go. Now they should be there. Good evening, guys. This happened last week, too, at a perfectly working system. And I go to air, and the whole thing goes apart. And so,
I've seen the price of gas.
Okay, so you are live.
Randy!
Good evening and welcome.
Here we are.
Here you are.
Somebody does not want us on tonight.
Well, we just patched around a whole bunch of stuff on the mixer here, and I don't know what happened. This has gotten very weird the last couple of weeks. The deeper into things we go, the more interference we get, and they screw with lines and electronics and all sorts of things. And, you know, I honestly, sometimes I go back and I listen to my shows and I think, am I making excuses for my own inadequacies? And then I test my equipment and I go, but it works. The equipment works. And it works when it's tested, and then we go to air, and everything just goes to hell. So anyway, welcome to the show, guys. We have Chris Kehler on with us. Chris, tell people where they can find you right up front.
ChrisKehler.net is my website. It's ChrisKehler.net.
And the last time we talked, we sort of introduced people to your concepts of quantum healing and the modalities that you're using, and the people that you've worked on. Since that interview, I know I've interacted with a couple of people who have also partaken of your services, and I've heard really good things about the work that you're doing. But just as a kind of refresher, let people know a little bit about your background and how you got into this, and what it is exactly that you address in your practice.
Okay, well, the way I got into this, for the first 30 years of my working career, I was in the printing industry, running big printing presses the size of your house, at newspapers and that type of thing. It was about 9 years ago, my first wife passed away. And at that point in time, it was such a hard life working in that industry, and with my wife's illness, I decided to take a break from work, and so I retired. So at 47 years old, I retired, sitting in my backyard, drinking beer all day long. And I thought, okay, time to get life back in order. So I started looking around, taking some courses. Long story short, I met somebody who does this type of work, and I took a very big shine to it. It really resonated with me that this is something I think I could get into. And sure enough, I fell into it very quickly, and I met a lot of people who do this type of work, started taking some courses, started trying some different avenues of this type of work, and it came very quickly to me. Figured that I can make a business out of this and actually do some good for humanity. And 8 years later, I've got a full clinic set up, and I work on people 9 hours a day, 5 days a week on Skype and over the telephone doing distance healings. I also have people who come into my clinic and work on basically any kind of health problem whatsoever that anybody has. And what I do, the way I do this work is I use a pendulum, and I've got a series of charts that I've developed that have pretty much 99% of almost everything imaginable that could be going wrong and within somebody's body, causing a health problem. So with the system I developed, it's a very intricate system of deducing what it is. So I've got about 5 different ways of asking questions with the pendulum. And it gets me to a point where it shows me where to start clearing out of the body. So what areas to clear out within the aura, within the chakra system, within the physical body. And anything from viruses, parasites, heavy metals, and all that type of thing. And then it goes into the spiritual realm, which is working with spirit attachments, demonic attachments, ET attachments, all these types of things. And working with Whisper, when he came in, we started going down the realm of a lot of different types of attachments, if you will. A lot of we're going to call them the soldier, the universal soldier phenomenon, the MiLAB phenomenon that's been going on. A lot of people have been talking about that on the internet. I've actually talked to quite a few people who have been venturing down that road and exploring it and finding out exactly what's going on. So basically, any kind of health problem people have had, and I also work in the soul level. I also work in the law of attraction. Anything that you can think of. When you're working with quantum energy, when you're working with the God realm, the Christ realm, anything is really possible. So what I do is I'll use some energy tools that I have, such as pyramids, to move out whatever the energy is. And at the speed of quantum energy, quite often there is instantaneous healings that happen right before your eyes. So quite often people will have aches and pains. They come to see me. We find out what the ache and pain is. We move that energy out. And then people feel the differences right away. So that's the basis of where I am. And of course, it's always a growing business. There's always more to learn when it comes to working spiritually and universally with people. And we're going to get into that later.
And really, I guess when it comes down to it, most people who are healers and people who have worked in the healing professions, whether it's allopathic, holopathic, homeopathic, spiritual, know that the mind-body-spirit connection is a really powerful matrix that you enter into. Do you find that in most cases, even with, I would say, common physiological disorders, that there's in fact, I want to say entanglement, that there's a spiritual aspect, in other words, a triangulation between what's going on in the physical and what's going on spiritually or psychologically?
Absolutely. Generally, when I look for a health problem, I'm always, first of all, clearing out the spiritual or energetic component within the person. That could be a poltergeist. It could be an ET. It could be various different things of energies. And quite often it is some type of witchcraft spell, some type of shamanic spell or curse, some type of family curse. So we find all of those and we clear them out. And then we go after the physical. Because generally what's going to happen if let's say you have an excess of heavy metals in your body, let's say iron. You have too much iron. So when a spiritual component comes in, it's going to take that low point in your body, that problem, the excess iron, and it's going to send it to different areas. So, some people get a buildup of iron in their liver or a buildup of iron in the kidneys. So why not all over the body, okay? Because this spiritual energetic component is basically directing it to that area. So you always have to find the energy component, the spiritual component, before you can go after the physical component.
Give me an example of something extreme, and obviously, patient confidentiality, you don't want to let out too much, but give me a couple of success stories of some extreme things that you've dealt with that maybe people can relate to, Chris.
Okay, here's a very recent one. I worked with a doctor in Germany, okay, and he is an osteopath. So they called me up and said, we need to do some work with you. We've been following your YouTube and seeing what you're doing, and we're interested in doing some work with you. So this doctor had a lot of issues going on in his muscular system and his skeletal system that was not letting him do his work. It was really getting in the way. He's only, in his mid-30s, so he's still fairly young. He got lots of time left. So what I found within him was a buildup of copper in his body. Now, a copper excess or copper toxicity is a very, very common problem within a lot of people. We just don't realize it. The copper and zinc balances are very, very crucial within our body. So he had an excess of copper. So I started removing that out a little bit. And then what I found is he had a spiritual attachment in the form of the Greek god Zeus. Okay, so what I did is I removed Zeus from his body. I just used my energy tools. I instructed Zeus to leave, and he did. And all of a sudden, he felt a large cyst behind his knee disappear. He felt his muscles loosen. It was an incredible instantaneous healing, and he said that right away he felt 80% better. So, those success stories happen every day within people at different levels. Another client, the same thing. She had incredibly bad muscle spasms going on within her back, and to the point where she was on Skype with me, and she's swearing like a sailor, like, "Get this blip blip bleep out of me." I removed Zeus immediately. Her pain left. So the Greek god realm, or the god realm in total, you've got the Greek gods, Egyptian gods, Lemurians, Sumerians, all these different gods have been playing havoc on our bodies since the beginning of time, since the beginning of them. So by moving whatever the energy out that is controlling or commanding the problem in your body is the crucial step.
That's an interesting phenomenon that you just brought up. I have never heard this before, but you're saying these are sort of ancestral gods. So would this go into like generational issues going back in time in terms of where they're picking up attachments from? Most people don't really believe in these ancient god things anymore. So how's that work?
You know what? A lot of people think it's a personal attack when it actually isn't. The scenario I like to use is that you're swimming in the ocean, nothing is around, a shark swims by and looks up and says, "Oh, look, lunch." It's nothing personal. It's just they need food, they need enjoyment, they need whatever out of you. So it's nothing personal. A familiar thing, okay, so something that runs in the family is generally going to be a curse that's been put on by some type of witch, somebody who practices black magic, somebody who's had a family feud with you generations ago. That they can put these curses on you, and it follows the family lineage. So when you have people that have a disease that skips a generation, but it goes to the next generation, there's a 95% chance there's going to be some type of curse involved in that.
Wow, that's interesting. We talk, you might know or you might not know, and it doesn't, it doesn't matter, but for most of this year, I've been in hot pursuit of the subject of what's called in the Gnostic texts the archons. And this is a subject that I got very interested in and began looking into, and I've had a number of people on in different ways to kind of begin to address this. And it was almost kind of, I don't want to say whimsical, but I swerved into it, and I thought it was important. But it deals with basically energy parasites. In other words, entities and beings that seem to have a supernatural component to both their inception and their operation on the human energetic system. And it seems like it's a very old phenomena that's been going on. But the lines on all of this really kind of seem to blur at a certain point. And the distinction to me was made that the archons are basically what was described in a book written by the British supernatural writer Colin Wilson as mind parasites. Have you encountered any of this, Chris? Can you speak to the subject of the archons at all?
Absolutely. Basically, I work with every type of ET type subject out there. I even find different races of beings that we don't even know exist. So there's so many different races out there that are interdimensional. They can come in and out as they please. Now, when you talk about energy parasites, these energy parasites, these beings, they live off of our energy. Let's say when we sneeze, you emit an energy that comes out of your aura, and they're all around us to sop it up, to eat it up. Okay? When you have a sexual orgasm, there's an incredible energy expelled when this happens, and boy, oh boy, let me tell you, they love that energy. So if you're a person who's let's say a chronic masturbator, okay, well, if you're a person who just can't stop doing this type of thing, there are energies around you that are making you do that because they want that energy. Okay, what drives you to do that type of thing? What's that?
Is 3 times a day chronic?
I don't know. I guess you better ask your hand that.
I wasn't asking about me.
Well, let me tell you, there's a lot of disruption in our lives that is caused by distraction of these beings directing us to do certain things instead of doing what we need to do that day. Do something unproductive that creates more of a guilt and fear energy. These types of parasites love the guilt. They love the fear. They love the lower, darker energies that are emitted by us when we have these different emotions involved with our day-to-day actions. So there's always some type of dark ET reason why we do a lot of things. I mean, you look at the thoughts that come into our head. Where do they come from?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't just conjure them. There's different thoughts. I mean, we're as guys, we'll sit at a stoplight and we'll have 50 different thoughts go through our head in about 10 seconds. Okay? So these thoughts are being put into us. They're coming in from other people around us. We receive these thoughts from different avenues, from different sources. And they do have a very huge influence on how we act on a day-to-day basis. So the best way to describe it is that we are somewhat controlled. Our free will has been hijacked. Our free thought has been hijacked and replaced with programs, replaced with thoughts that are not healthy, thoughts that drive us to do things that we normally wouldn't do if these beings weren't around us.
Yeah, no kidding. Back to the archons, Randy. I found that they kind of come in about 3 different types or stages. There's like a little parasite that'll sit in your upper chakras, which is like an amoeba. Mm-hmm. And then they also have like a worm with a head on it, that looks almost like a gray. And those are mind control parasites. And then there's a reptilian component that sort of guides and works with all of those. The little amoebas are like energy sucking things that they use as candy. And then the worms are their thought control. And then there's a component that seems to be hooked up into the reptilians as well.
And this is a really pretty consistent narrative that I've gotten from multiple people over time. In fact, I had a listener send me some rather amazing photographs that have been taken, and other people, researchers even going back to the 1950s, have documented being able on film to detect the presence of these archonic parasitic entities. And if you stop to think about it for a minute, we're going back to the early 20th century. I remember reading the philosopher Ouspensky talking to his students about the fact that your thoughts are not your thoughts. And Ouspensky at that time was really grappling with this. He was working with his students to try to get them to compartmentalize and to be able to shut down the noise around them. And some of the people in his group at that time were almost going insane trying to control their own minds, because the more aware that they became of how unquiet their minds were and how disturbing some of these thoughts. It's almost like a puddle and it's very still, and then you stir up the sediment. Well, as a result of going through all this introspection and this deep contemplation that they were doing, they were discovering that they were stirring up an awareness of their own darkness. In other words, the act of observing it actually began to agitate it. And I look at the distraction level that we have around us now, and especially because of the electronics that are around us, the fact that we're just one step away from being organically tied into computers at this point. And I'm thinking, how is it even possible anymore for people to introspect to the point where they realize how unquiet their minds are, how many thoughts bombard them on a moment-by-moment basis that totally do not come from our own consciousness?
Yeah, that's absolutely true, Randy. Right now, there's a couple of schools of thought out there about how mind-controlled we are. And there's a technique that you can use, actually, to drop from your head down into your heart just by commanding your spirit to do it and then counting backwards from 10 to 0. And you totally fall, you ask your waking thoughts, here, can I try it on you?
Sure.
I'll see if I can do it over the radio.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're just going to command your spirit to drop your waking thoughts from your head to your heart, and we're going to count from 10 backwards down to 0. And as I count backwards, we'll actually stop at 5, and we'll try it. So we command your thoughts to drop, your waking thoughts to drop from your head down to your heart. And 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Try thinking right now. It'll be in your throat.
Yes. That's actually
4,
yeah.
3, 2, 1. It's now down in your heart. What you're going to notice is all your mind chatter stops.
Yeah.
Okay. When you're in your head, you're totally under this mind control. And when you drop down into your heart, it's basically what people meditate for 3 hours a day to get down to there. You can do it in 20 seconds.
That was
That's
amazing.
actually,
That was very, very clearing. I feel like I cleared a field there.
you can do that to yourself every day, 10 times a day, and drop down there, and you drop right out of all the ET programs, all of the government conspiracy programs, anything that's being broadcast. You command your spirit to drop your waking thoughts from your head to your heart, count backwards from 10 to 0, know that at 0 you're going to be there. And if you do that 10 times a day, basically you're living in peace energy. You're totally outside the bun as far as all these mind control things. That's a Ron Armatron technique. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Yeah, he's very big on that, and I've been using it a lot on myself lately. And it clears your mind chatter totally out. You know, if someone starts chirping at you or the phone rings, you'll get popped back up into your head, and then just command your spirit to drop your thoughts from your head to your heart. And do the backwards count. Takes 15 seconds, and you're at peace.
I get a lot of people who ask me about how do I quiet my mind so I can meditate, and they ask me how I meditate. My meditation is through my pendulum. But if you want to do the quiet mind meditation where you sit in the lotus position and touch your thumb to your middle finger and do ohms and that type of thing, that technique would work perfectly to bring your thoughts down to your heart, so that you can get into that negative or that zero headspace, so that you can actually meditate the way that people think meditation should be done.
Absolutely. Well, you can do this in 15 seconds without having to bother sit there in an uncomfortable position for 2 hours. So it kind of kicks the hell out of all the people teaching meditation. But that's what they're teaching you, is to get into that out of your head space and into your heart space. And you can actually command your spirit, which is incredibly powerful, to do that for you. And, you know, it's a technique that anyone can do on their own, but it gets you out of all the mind control. Like right now, do you remember back when you were a kid, Randy, you could look into the clouds and they were like puffy cotton balls?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, if you look at them now, they all have flat bottoms.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of schools of thought that say that's basically ships that are here right now. They may be interdimensional or outside of our thought, but the clouds form around them and they're all these flat bottom ships. They're all mind control. They're all projecting mind control on humanity, and people are living in these programs right now that Chris was talking about. And if you do this little heart drop thing, you can get right out of those programs and just still your mind and have some peace in your life. So,
well, no, and I've noticed clouds shift. I mean, I've seen clouds shift, and it's very obvious. Some of them are cloaked entities or craft or something.
Oh, absolutely. You don't have to go looking around for spacecraft right now. They're around us, basically.
Yeah, they're all over the place. Yeah.
And the way to tell is if a cloud has a flat bottom, basically is it's, you know, there's schools of thought that say that anyways, and it seems to be the case. And the reason they're here is for these different mind control.
The reason they're here is because the gas prices are so low now.
Awesome.
Are they low up in I talked to somebody in LA. They said that they were seeing gasoline on the west coast of the United States going for 99 cents a gallon. Now, Normally, California is probably close to $1 a gallon more expensive than where I live on the East Coast of the United States. I know Canada sells gasoline by the liter, so I'm always confused by what your prices are.
I saw 76 cents a liter today on the news. Winnipeg, we're about maybe 86 cents a liter, and that's down from $1.30, $1.40 a liter.
I just somehow don't think they're running high octane. I got a feeling they're running off something else. Oh, that's right, they're running off us. You're the fuel.
There's something going on. When gas prices drop like that, when oil starts trading at a much lower price like that, something is restructuring, something is rebooting. You look at what's going on in Russia, the ruble is dying. Yeah. You know, there's so many things that are happening at different levels.
This is economic warfare.
All of a sudden, Obama and the states in Cuba are now best friends.
Yeah, and that was like overnight. This guy's on, there's Obama, he's pulling down a Cuban Havana. I'm like, holy shit, man. It's like, oh, it's legal now. Oh, wait a minute. Are you kidding me? I could get a Cuban cigar now? That's close to about the coolest thing I can think of right now. I'd love to have a Cuban cigar. But the bottom line is that there's a realignment that's taking place, and nobody's really talking about it. I mean, they give you these scattered little narratives in the news about events, but people, and here's the thing about it, people's minds are so busy now and they're so scattered and fragmented, they don't integrate information and they don't look at big picture anymore.
Well, you get distractions like the Ebola crisis. You get distractions like ISIS, and all these other things that are going on, and there's things running in the background that are changing, so nobody pays attention to it.
Yeah, they're almost like software programs on a computer. They run in the background, and every once in a while they bump up visibly, and you look at it and you go, oh, that's a message, and then, you click it, and it goes away, and it's like you don't think about it again. But it's running on your computer, and it's kind of like that with all these programs right now.
Well, I look at the human body as a computer, okay? If you look how computers have gone from this big, humongous monster to this tiny little flat thing in front of you over, 20 years, there's really been a lot of things happening. And computers are ET technology. There's no denying that this is all ET technology. So when I'm working within somebody's health problem, I'll look at their DNA as the computer program, where you can put different cards in it, different programs. The brain is the drive, and the nervous system is all the wires. So if you look at the body in that respect, and I also look at it as a house with plumbing and electrical. We all have plumbing, we all have electricity, we all have programs. So what I find out quite often is that there is an area in our body called the holographic body. And it's been described by a lot of other philosophers that everything around us is a hologram. It's not real. It's a hologram because we're in a matrix. Okay, and if you watch the movie The Matrix, you'll get some kind of idea about that. So I work within an area called the holographic body, which, if you can envision, it's like the movie theater within your body. So whatever movie is playing, whatever hologram is playing within that, that's what you're kind of acting out. That's what your health is doing. That's what your life is doing. So by changing the movie, all of a sudden you change your life, or you change your health problems. So that has been a very big issue lately with working in that area within people.
Oh, I was supposed to ask a question here, wasn't I? I was doing the dropping my brain down to my heart chakra again, and I got amazingly clear and blanked out there for a second. In the energetic side of this, we talk about the hologram. Well, a hologram is what? It's part of a greater whole. So when you're dealing with one system based on the quantum field, are you then also interacting with larger scale fields as well that are impacting on other systems?
Let's use an example for that. there's something called phantom pain. If you were in a car accident, you lose your leg, okay?
Right.
But now you've had it amputated, but most people still feel that leg is there. They can feel pain in it. They can feel that it still exists, but it's not there. That's because that leg still exists within your quantum field, okay? There's something called the causal body or the etheric template within your aura, and that's what your body feeds off of. So if that leg still exists, your body's going to say, well, the leg is still there. There's still pain. Let's register it as pain. If somebody was to come in and I was to work on that leg that is no longer there, the pain would go away. Many people come in, women come in, and they suffer from abdominal pain. And I say, well, the problem is in your uterus. And they'll say, well, Mr. Healer, man, I don't have a uterus. I've had a hysterectomy. And I look at them and say, but your body still thinks you have a uterus. So we need to fix the problem that wasn't fixed by removing your uterus. So you go into these quantum areas of the body to do the repair, and all of a sudden your physical body register it as a fix.
And you bring up a good point here, because most of Western medicine is based on the modalities of, well, first off, all of the pharmaceutical drugs, which is an entire subject in itself, but then all of the surgical procedures. And I mean, I remember even when I was a kid growing up, everybody got tonsillectomies. I knew a lot of people that had appendectomies. It seems like a lot of modern medicine now women are having their breasts surgically removed to avoid breast cancer because they've been told that they possess the gene that will cause that. So we're still lobbing organs off in hopes of saving the whole body. But is all of that really necessary if we act proactively using modalities like what you're practicing?
Yeah, ultimately, if you took a doctor's advice and took medications all your life, you're just going to kill yourself earlier and put yourself in a lot of misery, okay? If you need a medication to keep you alive for a certain amount of time, yeah, absolutely. If you suffer a bad bacterial infection, you need an antibiotic, yes, absolutely. If that is what keeps you from landing on the wrong side of the soil, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's all fine and dandy, but ultimately, if your immune system is good, you should really be able to fight off just about anything. So what I've been working within lately, okay, this is something I found about a week ago. The guys and I were joking around a little bit that I had a little bit of ham for supper before I did the show, and they're like, "You ate pork? My goodness!" Now, what I have found is that basically everyone on the planet who has eaten pork does have swine flu or some type of pig virus that mutates, and what this does is it distracts your immune system, so your immune system is always fighting this. So any other virus or bacteria that come in can go ahead and do whatever they want. So by doing clearings, okay, and I'm not saying working with me, but doing clearings of all these different things with anybody who does this type of work who's credible, will get rid of all these problems so your body can function normally the way it's supposed to. Okay, by taking away the distraction within our lives, within our bodies, within our diets, within everything. Now you can start to concentrate better. Now your body can start to function better. One big thing that people don't realize is the mineral content of all the food that we're eating is very, very low. There's a lot of deficiencies in the plants that we are eating. So, of course, if you're eating these plants for sustenance, your mineral components are going to be low. So I always recommend for everybody to take a good ionic multi-brand mineral supplement just to keep your minerals where they're supposed to be. If you use a water-soluble mineral, you're not going to get too much. Your body will just pee it out. And now your immune system can start working properly because you got the right minerals.
What are the most critical minerals in your opinion? I know I've, through the years, gone through a number of different cycles, but I found, for instance, I require a bit more magnesium.
Okay, there's four or five basic ones that I always look for. The two biggest ones is the copper and zinc combinations. Copper and zinc balance each other out. So if you're all of a sudden your copper is very high for some reason, your zinc will go low. If your zinc is very high, your copper will go down. And if you go on Dr. Lawrence Wilson's website, there's a big write-up about copper toxicity and copper and zinc balances. There's a lot of study done on it, and it is very crucial that balance stays optimal. Another one is the potassium and sodium balance. Potassium is a positive charge of electricity in your body. Sodium is a negative charge. So if you're somebody who stays away from salt religiously, well, your potassium is going to go up. Now you're going to get heart palpitations and other problems. So you do have to have a certain amount of sodium in your diet. Now, this is a good sodium. You want a good sea salt, not that crappy table salt you buy at Safeway on the shelf. You want to make sure that all these balances are perfect. Another big one that people don't realize is the silica dioxide. Silica dioxide is the second biggest component within our bodies next to carbon. Okay, what silica dioxide does is it aids calcium to absorb into your body. Now, we all know about magnesium and vitamin D to absorb calcium into your body, but the silica dioxide is probably the bigger one that you need to pay attention to. Okay, and silica dioxide is very deficient in a lot of foods. So you have to take a supplement form of silica. Silica, now one of the highest food sources for silica is beer. And I'm having one right now. Okay, it's Friday night, I'm having a beer. Why is beer high in silica? Because when they filter beer, they use diatomaceous earth to make the filters to filter the beer. Diatomaceous earth is extremely high in silica dioxide.
Now this is starting to make sense.
Okay. So now you can go to any garden store, you can go to any health food store and buy silica dioxide. It's extremely cheap. You can buy the diatomaceous earth. It's in a powder form like baking flour. You can even bake bread with it, for crying out loud. Put a tablespoon of water a day and drink it. Okay, the benefits of diatomaceous earth, it's going to kill parasites in your body because the molecule is almost the hardness of a diamond. It's going to add the silica dioxide to properly absorb the calcium into your bones and teeth, and it's also going to help to keep the calcium pump in your muscles clear of all kinds of garbage, so that when you have a muscle contraction and the calcium goes through your muscles, it doesn't build up in your muscles, causing a spasm. Okay? So those are the 5 basic ones. Now, of course, everything else. Now, here's another example. If you need iron, you're very low in iron all the time, and you even take an iron supplement, but you're still low in iron, you need copper. Copper helps iron to absorb into your body. Just like silica dioxide will help the calcium and magnesium will help the calcium, copper is very crucial for the absorption of iron. So a fine balance of minerals is very important.
That was rather unique information. That's not something I've heard. I know that information's out there, but the diatomaceous earth is very interesting. That's something I have heard of before, but you broke it down into something so simple. Drink beer.
Now here's something else about diatomaceous earth. So the whole ascension process, a lot of people are hearing about and talking about, and I talk about it a lot because I'm a big part of it, is that our bodies are going to become crystalline. Okay, what they mean by that is our bodies are going to become like a quartz crystal in a way, in an energetic way. Now, if you take diatomaceous earth, that is silica, that is quartz. So the quartz component, the silica component in your body is how your body is going to do this transition when all of this energy shifting happens.
And do you think that, Chris, this ascension thing, this meme's been obviously bouncing around for a number of years. It hit a wide mark when we hit 2012. And then I know a lot of people had kind of dropped off because I think people were expecting something more spectacular. But do you think we're on track with this? Do you see an ascension cycle taking place? And the second part of that question would be, is that also why we seem to have an escalation in these wars that are going on with the archonic parasites and the ETs?
The ascension process is happening, and it's happening right at this very moment. Now, like as you said, everybody's waiting for this big kaboom, this big light switch to get flicked, this big happening. All of a sudden, spaceships everywhere, or something bad is going to happen. No, it's not going to be like that. It can't be that way. Otherwise, we're all going to go into shock. We're all going to go into mass hysteria, and shit is going to hit the fan. It's going to be a very subtle thing that's happening. Now, if you look at the 2012 scenario, the end of the Mayan calendar, everybody was expecting something dastardly to happen. As humans, that's how our minds work. We want something bad to happen. Okay, for some reason we're sick.
I know. We love apocalypse. Yeah. We love the Armageddon script. Yeah.
But what the 2012 Mayan calendar end was the beginning of the cycle, beginning of the it was a lock-in period for all of this ascension to start happening. Okay, if you want to get a really good idea of what is really going on in the universe, if you go on YouTube and you look at all the videos from Yellow Rose Fort, Texas.
Oh,
yeah. She's got it going on, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, there's a lot of really cool stuff that she talks about that really resonates. And that's the optimal way you know something has validity, when you resonate with it, when it makes you feel good, when you think with your heart and it feels good to you. Now, what the way I know that things are getting better, and we're going through this ascension. Number one, my toolmaker, my mentor, is the main person on the planet running energy into the Earth grid to make this all happen. So I get news from the horse's mouth when this is all happening. I spoke with him 2 days ago. I said, "Hey, Wayne, we're shifting, aren't we?" He says, "Yes, we are." And I says, "December 21st, right?" He goes, "You better hang on." Okay, so there is shifting happening. This whole energy process about the ascension of our consciousness going into the fifth dimension to basically, instead of learning, it's knowing. Instead of trying to create a life, it's created for you. All the good things you want, you can manifest at a higher rate because there's nothing negative in the way. Because now what's happening is that the Earth is going through this wormhole, this Stargate, into this dimensional shift. And all of these dark forces, these archons, these zetas, these reptilians, all of these different forces will not be allowed to exist within that field. So there's going to be no restrictions, nothing stopping you from obtaining your highest knowledge, from obtaining everything that you want. It's going to be a slow process getting there. But what I'm seeing in my work is when I'm working with people with health problems, my abilities with dowsing and using the energy are getting better and better and better, okay? And that's on a weekly basis.
And I'm imagining that probably, healers and people who are working in energy see this a bit more. Certainly 10 years ago, but probably even 5 years ago, we wouldn't have been having this conversation. First off, you had to go through your process, your journey in going into doing what you're doing. And I mean, every one of us, and I think I can speak for everybody on the call tonight, has gone through an acceleration process over the last, I'd say, 7 years. And that's just a convenient number to hang on it. But are you also seeing other people with similar stories where there's an acceleration?
Absolutely. I've had people, listen to my radio interviews, and people live in Winnipeg are like, "This guy's in Winnipeg," and they have to come see me, and they have to tell me their story of how they awoke. How all of a sudden it's like, "Hey, I was sitting at my desk one day, I read an article, and I was like, wow." And it just resonated. All of a sudden, people, we're going to call it waking up. They're realizing that there is a lot more out there that's instead of mainstream news and mainstream government, that there's different ways of doing things. You can start to think outside the box, and it's okay to do that. That people are realizing, hey, you know what? I really think there are other life forms on our planet. And I really feel that there is, not just thinking it because they read it, but they feel it. It's a knowing that there is different things happening, that they can shift their attention away from the blinders and look a 360 instead of a 10-degree angle.
Interesting. And I guess, too, it's a two-edged sword, because at the same time we're waking up to kind of the nightmare that's been in process for a long time. Hence, our friend Whisper, who's on the call with us tonight, and what he went through. And wow, I have to say this. I've been doing this now for, it'll be almost 7 years. The number of people that I've interviewed talking to me about abduction experiences, dimensional abductions, contact experiences, it's off scale now, and people are becoming comfortable with it. And I'm wondering if what I talked about at the start of the show tonight, the article from the HuffPost about NASA sponsoring this big to get together with media and scientists and the Jesuit Vatican astronomers, is this like a grease job, or is it a way to prevent us from getting the deep truth? It looks to me like a lot of what they're feeding you right now, and I didn't read that whole NASA article, but it had to do with SETI, which is a complete red herring. A SETI's not doing anything except sending out radio signals. It's not really designed to discover anything. So the question is, are they hiding something or attempting to reveal something, or is this like some grease job for a mass delusion thing?
Well, I've been watching all these different channelings, from the Galactic Federation of Light and all these different organizations that claim that they've got the answers and they get the channeling. Yeah, like blah, 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 whatever. Ultimately, if we know that there are ET, come on, it's just, so what? And if there is, so what? Doesn't matter. Now, if there is going to come a time where disclosure needs to happen, of course, the governments want to be involved with that. They want to be the saviors to say, here they are. They don't want all of a sudden, ISIS comes forward and says, here's ET, say hello to them, because it's going to make the government look stupid, right? So the governments are going to want to be involved so that they can say we're the ones who brought it forward. So we know that the governments have been working with ET since the 50s. There's been a lot going on. Technology, apparently Germans took mind control, and the States took technology for different things. There's a lot of knowledgeable people out there talking about this. David Icke is a very big one. I love listening to him. He's got a lot of good concepts about it. If you listen to Carrie Cassidy's videos on YouTube, lots of information. Ashiana Dean, lots of very intelligent people are talking about this. And that's what really gets my attention, that this isn't some toothless guy from Arkansas, half drunk on a keg of beer talking about it. No, and no offense to anybody in Arkansas, but this is actually intelligent people talking about it. So there's got to be some validity. Now, of course, the governments, they have to make themselves look good. So ultimately, it's going to be them that does the disclosure.
And yet at the same time, really, if we just went back and looked at our history, if we even looked at our religions, if we looked inside of our own culture, we've had disclosure for a long time. It's just that most people have not been able to perceive that information yet, which is going to kind of bring us to the subjects we want to talk about in the second segment. Whisper's going to jump in again and join us, and we're going to talk at length about MiLABS, military abductions, and we've got a number of subjects we want to talk about: Stargates in the body, the war on Saturn, astral traveling, and of course get an update from Whisper. And this is probably a good place to take a break, guys. We'll be back in about 6 minutes, and you'll just stay on the line, and we will be back for part 2.
You are listening to OffPlanet Radio at offplanetradio.net and offplanetradio.com.
This is OffPlanet Radio. This is OffPlanet Radio.
Welcome to another dimension, a dimension of insight, a dimension of understanding. You are entering the place where reality collides with truth. There are no limits, there are no boundaries. This is OffPlanet Radio.
And we welcome you back to the second segment of OffPlanet Radio Live. I'm Randy Maugans. The website is offplanetradio.com. You can go over there and find literally hundreds of hours of, well, I'd like to think, quality interviews on some of the subjects we're talking about tonight. And on the break there, I need to give credit. That piece of music that you heard, that audio montage, is from a friend of mine named Safe House LTE on SoundCloud and also on Facebook. Safe House LTE. The song is called Secret Sun Instrumental, featuring Tom Waits for No Man. And for anybody that's following my Facebook page, you'll see I posted a Tom Waits song today. Because we are just, we're arcing towards the season of Christmas for those who celebrate such things. And we're 24 hours out on the solstice, the time when we move across the hemisphere and we begin the lengthening of days again. So these are very interesting times, very high energy. People invest a lot of energy in the holidays, and that's not necessarily a bad thing if you know how to balance. But I notice that most people are severely out of balance. In fact, I'm watching people that are just driving around recklessly like fools, doing consumerism and basically feeding the very energies that we're talking about tonight with our guests, Whisper and Chris Kehler. And welcome back.
Hi.
Hey.
Well, we managed to get back on the air without any disasters. Who'd have thunk it?
I'll drink to that.
Ah, yeah. Thanks for clearing the air for us, because we... yeah, beer is the new health food now, by the way. I love that. That's, you know, actually, that goes back. I was talking to somebody a while back in an interview about the ancient custom, especially, I believe, among the Norse, of drinking mead and the whole fermentation process that goes into that, which is actually kind of a ritual. And the fact that, you know, while we mass produce things like this now, that is actually something that's very ancient and actually part of a sacred aspect of people's lives, the taking of spirits.
I'll drink to that.
Okay. Now we got to get it back under control, because we left on a kind of serious note. Now I want to touch on some of this. Chris, one of the things that we need to talk about is the Stargates in the body. This is an interesting concept, and maybe you can address some of this. My personal take on this, because I'm, I don't know what the hell I am now, but, I believe that the universe collapses down inside of us, that we are the epicenter of the cosmos, and that, in fact, we externalize the cosmos on some level. But the Stargates in the body.
Stargates, interesting concept, and everything that I come up with, everything that I work on is fed to me by my guides through my pendulum, and they just all of a sudden give me this big drawn out message about what I need to work on now, and different ideas and different things to look at and shift to. A Stargate, and we have all seen the movie Stargate, and we've kind of follow that kind of scenario. There are actual Stargates that occur naturally in the universe, and they can also be created by different types of races of interdimensional beings. Now, if you look at our, we have a chakra system, and it's energy centers within our body, and there's 7 different ones within the body. There's a few outside the body. Some people will say there's 500. Some people will say there's 14. Doesn't matter. We have these energy centers. These energy centers can be used by interdimensional beings to open a Stargate, connect a wormhole, and come through a dimension into our bodies and into our third dimension process, our universe here. Now, the sun itself, the sun is a heat source, a light source. It's also a huge chakra for multidimensional beings and their spaceships to come in and out. So the chakra system phenomena has different functions. It drives our aura. The heart chakra. When let's say we lose a loved one or we end a relationship, you feel a pain in your heart. That's the heart chakra closing up tight. Okay, so that's one way to realize what the chakra is. The root chakra, the solar plexus chakra, the sacral chakra, they're all have their own specific nuances of what they do, and there's lots of different schools of thought. We won't get into that. But the whole Stargate thing. Now, let's say you're a really healthy person, you got a fantastic heart, you eat properly, you do everything right, but you have these odd fluctuations within your heart. You even had the odd mild heart attack, and the doctors are thinking, what the heck is going on with this person? Well, we must have to give them a bunch of medications to try and keep this from happening. But what is happening is that these beings may be using your heart chakra to come in and out as an access point, thus creating stress within your body and creating this issue within the heart area. So that is one aspect I look at. Whenever I look at a health problem, as I said before, I look for the energetic, spiritual component. And it could very well be that there is a Stargate set up within your body, and these beings are using you as a door to come in and out of our environment.
And, to me, that makes a huge amount of sense when you go, we're obviously talking on the micro level, and then you zoom out into the macro and the super macro, and you begin to envision the entire universe or multiverses as an entire system in which we are, kind of a hologram, kind of a fractal of a reflection of larger systems.
Yeah, the whole universal concept, how one piece of the puzzle expands into a larger piece of the puzzle, and it's the same piece of the puzzle. Look up Ashiana Dean on YouTube, and you will get a better understanding of what this is all about. They call it Partiki grids, where one grid connects to another grid, and it's all the same grid, but it's all a connection of smaller parts that create a bigger component. So, we are part of the bigger universe. Now, we all look at the universe as this huge place with all these solar systems and stars and planets. We in ourselves are a universe. We in ourselves are a system. If you look at the molecules in our body, the atoms and neutrons, how they spin around each other, that is a universe. That is a solar
Absolutely.
system. Yeah, so from the smallest, very smallest amount goes to the bigger part. It's all the same thing, just has different purposes within us.
And so, it makes great sense then that your friend and others around the planet are doing this grid work on the planet. And yeah, I've heard Ashiana Dean's work. It's very complex to understand, but to boil it down simply, are we dealing with like ley lines, meridians, and things like that? We know that the Earth has an energetic grid, and we know that grid's been exploited. We know that there are sacred sites. I guess now there Göbekli Tepe is one place, but Stonehenge, all around the planet, we have these places that seem to have intense energy, intense historical background. And in some cases, I'm thinking of the Bekechi Mountains, where they found the cave that has the alien caves in it, where there is literally holographic machines that are demonstrating history of the planet. We live in a grid work, and identifying that grid work on the macro level then translates down into also identifying the grid work on the level of the body and the organisms within the body.
Well, you have to look at this planet as how old is it really? How many civilizations have been on this planet? You've got us, humans. There's been Mayans, Egyptians, the Atlanteans, the Lemurians.
Oh, it's extraordinarily old, even beyond
it goes
that.
Back. Now, all these ley lines, all of these artifacts, they're all ancient things that these old ancient civilization used for energy. Okay, they now basically don't work anymore because they're antiquated. They've lost all of their fuel. They just don't really work anymore. The pyramids of Giza, all the ley lines, Stonehenge, blah blah, all these things were set up for an energy grid on this planet to run energy through it. Okay, and that's the long and short of it. It's an antiquated system that is not really working anymore. Now there are a lot of ley lines that do still emanate negative energies. If your house is under a ley line, your family might get sick a lot, that type of thing. But that's few and far between. A lot of people like to blame HAARP, but like to blame ley lines, that like to blame smart meters for what's going on, when it's something going on in your body that is attracting these energies on a certain level. So a lot of these things are antiquated and don't really work, but they do still have maybe the odd little purpose here and there for dark energies to use them for a transport system, but ultimately antiquated and not really in use anymore.
So what does work now? I mean, if they're antiquated, what replaced them? Okay, let's go back.
Fuels.
Come again?
Fossil fuels. You've got electrical lines. You've got satellite transmissions.
We've got energy pollution. The energy that we're using now is dirty. I mean, if you just look at the electromagnetic fields around us right now, we're generating megawatts constantly now because we have all of these grids that we've put in place with dirty energy. And I was looking for optimism in that because one of the things that I'm an advocate of is extensive exposition of existing, not future inventions, but existing free energy sources, alternative energy sources, cold fusion, magnetic field energy, and things like that. Is there good news in all this, or are we just living in a dirty, polluted, energetic system that has no grids?
Yeah, that's all got to change. And Nikola Tesla had it right in the beginning, and J.P. Morgan shut him down. That bastard, he should rot. The potential was there to create this free energy grid on the planet, and Tesla had it all set up, ready to go. He needed funding. J.P. Morgan said, "Forget it. This is not going to happen. There's no money in it," and they stopped it from happening. You look at the first electric cars that came out. You could not buy one. You had to take one on a contract that said you can have it for so long, then you have to give it back. That was the EV1. Okay, so electric cars back then, they didn't want people having them because you weren't going to buy gas. So it all comes down to fossil fuels. It all comes down to the almighty dollar. Where is the money going to go? Where is it going to come from? Who's going to benefit from it?
Well, and if you look at the price we're paying right now, I mean, just look on the Pacific. Look at what happened in the Gulf of Mexico with the Deep Horizon platform, and then scan over to Japan and look at Fukushima, and you see the two extremes of our energy policies now. And look, historically, as a corollary to this, the best evidence says that Atlantis destroyed itself using crystals, that basically they misused power grids as well. So this civilization is certainly not standing alone. It seems like humanity has been on this trajectory where we either destroy ourselves with energy or we destroy ourselves developing energy. But what is the energy? Because energy is not created or destroyed, it is. So what do your guides, what does your friend tell you in terms of developing oh God, I hate this word. I'll say sustainable. What I mean is viable energetic grid system for the planet that is not going to contaminate the planet or the human biology.
I don't think there's a real a perfect way to have energy to run your power sources. Now you got to look back thousands of years ago. They didn't have TVs, they didn't have internet, they didn't have things that you needed electricity for. We used candles, we used kerosene lamps, we used wood fire stoves way back when. So it was trees, it was wax, it was wicks, it was these different types of things. Now because we're getting into such high technology where we need all this electricity, we have to have it one way, shape, or form. So you've got hydroelectric, you've got gas, you've got coal. Now there are a lot of people using magnet power, and there's a few different ones that come to mind. One is the Bedini, which is a magnetic driven wheel that creates 12 volt DC to charge batteries, and that takes no power to drive it itself. I've seen lots of different designs for magnetic powered drives that will run a generator. So the technology is there, but the governments and all these big companies, big oil and people, companies who rely on humanity using their product, squash all these things. They don't let them out. Just like the Nikola Tesla thing. Okay, it's the governments. Damn you, governments, for the planet being the way it is, and that's what the way it really boils down to.
Yeah, it's a fascistic system that is based on greed, and that tells us that at the root of all of this, it's really the economic system. It's this phony system of money, and I'm not anti-business. I'm not anti-quote capitalist. But what I'm against is the amount of greed and manipulation that we see right now in the economic system, which I think is a source of cancer. I literally believe that money is a source of death on this planet. Would you agree with that?
Well, let me relate that in a way that I understand it. The work that I do, okay, I'm a healer. If you have a health problem, you come to me, I'm going to get rid of your health problem. There's many other people around the world that do my type of work, and they do it very well. But if you look at the cost, what I charge for a session is $55. Mm-hmm. Most people look at me and say, "You crazy? You can make a heck of a lot more money than that." And I say, "How much money do you think I really need?" Okay, there's people who do my type of work who charge $300, $400 a session.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah, and that is all ego and greed, hands down. I do a good amount of money. I've got a small family. I've got 2 kids. I got a wife. We're looking at buying a new house. And with the money that I charge, I still do pretty darn good. I've got a website where I sell tools. How much money do you need, son of a gun? Governments, come on, give me a break. I took a course and I taught myself how to stop paying income tax into the Canada system.
Good.
There's a way to do it. It's by working as a human being. There's a way to do it legally. So you know what? Be smart with your money. Number one, don't go spending it on the 60-inch TV that comes out. Then an 80-inch comes out, and you got to have that one. Put the greed aside. You know what show I love watching? I think it's on Discovery. It's Alaska: The Last Frontier.
Oh yeah, I've seen this.
That is a fantastic show. Here's people living off the land, and they're making everything do for themselves. They don't rely on a lot of different things, you know. And I kind of see myself as that way. As, you know, do I need a brand new house? No. I got a roof over my head. Everything works fine. Doesn't have all the amenities, but I got a roof over my head and it's paid for.
And that's kind of the point that I was going to, is that, you know, again, you know, money is simply, it's neutral. I mean, it's an exchange of values. You obviously could contrive any number of economic systems. The economic system that we have is not necessarily flawed. It's been exploited, it's been corrupted, and it has diseased the minds and souls of so many millions of people on this planet as a result of the way it's being run. And, you know, that was really my point in bringing it up, and it was interesting to get your take on it because you have a business background, Chris, and, you know, now you're a small businessman. And I think that's a noble place to be, is simply, you know, supplying services, products, whatever, and fulfilling a need, being reasonable about it, and it's a quality product. You have a very personal product. By the way, one more time so we don't forget it on this segment, give your website out and let people know.
Absolutely. ChrisKehler.net. ChrisKehler.net.
I want to transition things a little bit because I want to get an update here from Whisper, and I want you guys to tell me what you've been finding out about energy harvesting and MiLABS and how that intersects with all of the things that we've talked about so far tonight.
Go, Whisper.
Oh, geez. All that?
Just the parts you can handle, dude.
Just an update? Well, doing a heck of a lot better. I worked a lot with Chris and got rid of a lot of the attachments. What he was talking about was Stargates being opened up within the body and the chakra system and the energy system. That guaranteed was half my battle. So getting through that. I've been using that little mind drop technique that I showed you at the beginning of the show there, and that's working fantastic because it gets you right out of the programming. None of their implants work when you're down in your heart. So they can broadcast all they want. They're not affecting you, things like that. You guys were talking about Ascension a little bit earlier?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a few school of thoughts out there that say in 2012 an Ascension happened, actually, but it was an ET Ascension. They basically, what I've heard is they've abducted probably 90% of the planet. So abductions are that far spread, or that common right now. They've picked most of us up, and they bring us back. But in a time-based reality, which we live in, it's pretty much all ET controlled. They are the masters of time. They can control it. They can shut it off. They can hit pause. They can pull you up, pull you out, do what they want to you, put you right back in, and continue on as if nothing ever happened. And the main reason they're doing that is basically they're time sharing us off on a bunch of, say, parallel realities or different timelines. And they could have one guy having a miserable life, which they feed on, clone him off on 1,000 different timelines, and which all seem real, and, you know, have that much energy to steal or harvest. So with true ascension, I think what they're talking about is being outside of this time-based reality or the matrix that we're living in and we consider our real reality, and getting back into the light, basically, is the way I understand it anyways. And then that's out of their, you know, we're no longer a food source to them. We can just go on and be on other light planets and, you know, incarnate other places and just get out of this schmozzola that's going on here.
Well, that was kind of the point of my rant at the beginning of the show as well, is that I've watched over the years, and the more deeply I've gone into this subject, and I went into this subject with a lot of trepidation. I mean, I really didn't want to talk about this, and I was drug kicking and screaming into it. And then the more I interviewed people and talked to people and realized that this was much more massive than I ever recognized. And the people that I've had on the show over the years are small compared to the amount of data that's been sent to me by people who simply cannot or will not go on a microphone and put their voice out there. So, you know,
Wow,
it's massive. I mean, that's why I appreciated so much, Whisper, that you came on and shared what you shared. I mean, because, you know, quite honestly, it requires a certain amount of intestinal fortitude to share that kind of thing.
Well, sure, it's not something you know, most people are going to look at you like you're a nut bar for even talking about it. And that's fine. You know, I'm going through what I'm going through. So, you know what, it's interesting. What else were you guys talking about? I wanted to bring up there. I was listening to you talk. Oh, I can't even think of it. It'll come to me later.
Do a mind drop.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, you know what? When you do that, you actually kind of lose track of what's going on.
I know that's what was happening to me too, but it's wonderful.
It is really. You get right out of that. You get right out of the program, and you can do that to yourself like 6 or 8 times a day. I found it's just amazing.
But actually, just doing it, you wind up getting clarity back too, because what happens is you clear the field, and then the natural mind begins to take over again. I mean, I did it again a few minutes ago before we came back to air. It's a marvelous technique. Listeners, grab onto this. This is a tool. It's free.
Yeah, that's a Ron Armatron technique. There's a YouTube video. He's got it on there. He'll teach you how to
I
do
guess
it.
I should talk to Ron. I had people suggest him over the years, and it's funny, you know, how this goes. People drop in and out. He's an interesting guy.
Well, right now he's kind of on a program where he's out there fighting ETs on different timelines. He's working with a group called the Founding Fathers Special Forces. And basically what they've done is they've gone and you can enlist through him, where they've gone back and enlisted just about any person who's fought in a war since 500 AD. And they're booting them out to 2200 AD, training them with different technologies, and then bringing them back to these timelines, and they're fighting ETs here. He's doing all kinds of neat kind of stuff out there that's, you know, not really healing based like the show is kind of about. But, you know, it's
I think waging a successful war is healing. I mean, the planet needs that right now. This place needs...
Oh, without a doubt.
What was it the Joker said in the Batman movie? This town needs an enema. Well, I think the planet needs one.
No, absolutely.
Wouldn't want to clean up that enema.
Well, hopefully it's etheric and it just clears itself out naturally. But I realize that's kind of graphic, but what the hell? We're graphic. I mean, we deal with the real gritty stuff sometimes. It kind of leads me, and Whisper, anything that comes along in the course of the conversation, just free flow with it, because there's no agenda here. But I want to talk a little bit about what Chris introduced in the first segment, the Universal Soldier and the intersection with MiLABS and the harvesting of energy on the planet. Okay,
now the whole MiLAB thing, the whole MK Ultra, the Universal Soldier scenario has been brought to me before in the work I'm doing, and people would call me up and ask, do you know anything about it? Have you worked with it? And I'm like, well, you know, I've kind of heard something about it. But to me, at that time, seemed kind of like conspiracy theory, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist whatsoever. I'm into reality, and what I find is what I work with. So it's never come up for me when I'm dowsing with my pendulum. I'm asking questions. It's never really come up. But as of late, in the last maybe couple months, it kind of started to show up, because I do have it in my charts, you know, as an option, as a health problem. So all of a sudden, you know, I've got some clients that no matter what I do, nothing helps them. Nothing works no matter what I find. If I work with a supplement, energy, whatever, nothing seems to work. And it flabbergasts me, okay? It's like, oh, come on, how come I can take somebody with MS one day and 2 days later they're walking? But I work with somebody with a skin condition and nothing goes away. Okay, so that has been my big quest is to be able to work on 100% of the population instead of 75%. So what happened yesterday, and I think Rob might be listening tonight. He's a client of mine in Winnipeg. He's been coming to see me. He's probably done about 8-10 sessions, and he has done the full gamut. There's a skin condition that he needs to take a steroid for in order for the problem to relieve itself, for the pain in the skin, the inflammation to go away. And he's done many different things. He's tried lasers. He's tried, different types of energy work, different things to try and get rid of this problem. So he was in my office yesterday. And I'm dowsing with my pendulum, asking questions again, trying to get in, trying to find a problem. All of a sudden, on my letter chart, my pendulum spells out, you better go to MiLAB. Better go to MiLAB. And it said it twice. Whenever it says it twice like that, I pay attention to it. So what do? I say, okay, let's go to MiLAB. So we ask MiLAB, what is the problem? And the pendulum starts to spell out, and it spells it out pretty quick, one letter at a time. It says, well, we have his skin in our laboratory. He has Lemurian cells within his skin, and we're studying it, and we're going to be done in 6 days. We'll give it back to him. And I just looked, and I hear lots of crazy stuff, and I know people are listening thinking, okay, this guy's had one beer and he's out of it. No. This is realistic stuff. So I took really good close look at this, and I started asking more questions, and I got more in depth. So what turns out is that the MiLAB thing, the MK Ultra, the government forces that are working on an energy level have his skin on an energy level within their labs, and they're doing experiments on it. And through the whole process of through the aura, through the causal body, as we talked about with phantom pain, he's getting results. He's getting a symptom within his real skin. Okay, so I need to pay close attention. Now, every week, I'm going on such a high rise of energy. Every week I get new things that the universe gives me to work on, new things to look at, different scenarios, working in the proprioceptive system of your body, within the teeth, within the gums, within the nerves, and all this area that go up to the brain. I've been given that, and all these new different types of entities to work on. So I'm starting to pay more and more attention to it. Now, Whisper comes into my office today, and he says, tell me where I am. Tell me what's going on. So I take my pendulum, and the question I asked was, what area in his body is in an MiLAB? Okay, that's the question I used. And it didn't answer that question. What it did is it started to tell me that he is, maybe you jump in, Whisper. It says something about you're in a high-level system of government covert operations or combat operations, something like that. And I just looked at him and said, holy mackerel, I couldn't make that up.
And for the last 2 months, I deal with lots of different guides and seem to have quite a bit as far as telepathy goes. But in the last little bit here, I've had tons of different visions and different memories of doing battles, either on ships, on the ground, all kinds of different things. So, they kind of have me without my permission, I think, and they've got me out there fighting. So it's affected me here a little bit, but, I don't know what to do about it. It's all interesting stuff, though, eh?
Can I ask you a question real quick, Whisper? Are you aware of either missing time or periods of time when there are blips, in other words, where consciousness may suddenly shift in and out?
I get lots of small ones. The biggest one I've ever had, one day I woke up at 2:30 in the afternoon. I had to be at my parents' for 5 o'clock for dinner, but I was still tired, so I just I figured I'd take another lie down for a half an hour. I woke up at 10:30 the same morning.
Yeah, so you got pulled out
and then put back in early.
I don't know how familiar you are with what I've done, but if you go onto my website, and look up the interviews that I've done with Duncan O'Finian. Duncan O'Finian was on Project Camelot. He was interviewed by Jesse Ventura. And Duncan has been an interview subject of mine for over 5 years. He's also a friend. And you'll begin to perhaps maybe patch some things together. Duncan was actually part of MK Ultra Project Talent back in the 1960s, and he began regaining his memories as a result of a car crash and an MRI scan which short-circuited some chips in the back of his head, and
right.
He began to get his memories back. So Duncan's obviously done a lot of disclosure over the years on the subject, and that's when I was asking that, because they're all going to be different. The technology's advanced over the generations. So,
oh, for sure. I've had implants in me that have felt like a 1950s TV circuit board. And then other stuff where I felt it drop in and melt right into a cell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I suspect that we're now at the point where I want to say subliminal. I don't know that that's the right word, but they can literally drop it in. There's no physical intrusion anymore.
Well, I think they call that broadcast in place is what it was put to me. I've never read that, but that was what a voice was telling me. This is broadcast in place. And I think, I don't know if it's HARP or some other, net around the planet that they're broadcasting this stuff, or if they're just using these programs and hitting your brain just the right way, because we are a biocomputer. But I'm often feeling actual devices. So I don't know. It's tough to say, but I'm getting both. But as fast as I'm getting stuff cleared out of me, it seems like they're ready to put a new one in. So,
Chris, are you able to confirm when you do readings with him in Dow's Up? Are you able to confirm the presence of implants, either actual hardware implants or some type of, energy body implants?
Yeah, they do come up. Now, with this whole scenario, the whole warrior, super warrior, universal soldier scenario, there's a lot of veils that are placed over all these things, because ultimately, any type of ET, any type of government source, whatever it is, demonic, they all know about people like me. They know that somebody's going to try and find this on a psychic level, so they put up all these barriers and blocks and veils. And it's up to me to learn how to weave through them all to try and find the problem. Now, what is happening right now? Okay, so let's go back to Ascension a little bit. December 21st is coming up really darn quick. Now, there's a very big shift that's going to happen, and nobody really knows what it is, but I think I do. What is happening, what I've been asking my guides and my pendulum the last few hours before we did this show is what's the process? And what's going to be happening is the whole program, the MK Ultra, the MiLAB program, is going to end. That is what's going to happen. Now, if you look back as to me working on clients who are very hard to get a result with, if they're involved in this whole MiLAB situation, this whole warrior situation, how come all of a sudden right now I can find it? That's because the universe is saying, okay, it is now okay for me to go in and find it, because this veil is lifted. This ban on working on this type of issue is now lifted. Okay, so to me, it's a huge awakening in this whole realm. Now, remember back, I said I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I always thought that people who thought this about this type of thing were kind of thinking on a conspiracy end, and it didn't quite resonate with me. But now, holy mackerel, it's huge. I've got about 7 or 8 clients who I'm now asking questions about, and it's coming up that they're all within the war. The war is on Jupiter. Okay, that's where the war is. Now, a good friend of mine was looking on the internet, and he says that there's some big changes happening on Jupiter within all the bands and all that big red spot. A lot of things are happening. They're finding a new moon or something like that. There's changes happening in Jupiter, and changes have happened on Jupiter over the years in different ways, shapes, and forms. But there's something going on. There was a war on Saturn that was very prominent, a war on Venus, a war on Jupiter, and it's an energy war. It's not people running around in spacesuits zapping each other with laser guns. It's more of an energy war, and what they do, the governments have agreed to take our energy to go in and fight these battles. So it's like we're taken against our will at an etheric level in our sleep. A lot of people wake up with sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
Okay. The sleep paralysis is a huge deal. These are people, they're not in their body right now. They're off on another planet fighting this war. Think of the movie Avatar. It explains it perfectly.
Well, and you just created an interesting intersection here. I have for years noted, as somebody who's reported and interviewed on this subject, the distinct similarities between the abductions, the mind control systems, and then ultimately intersecting in the MiLABS. And most people who come forward are one of those, or they identify as one of those, when I've always suspected, even based on their own testimony, that there was overlaps with all of this, that this was not just one thing, that it was actually one thing presenting. So if somebody comes to me with, their proof, their story about being involved in a government mind control project, generally there's somewhere in the background there's an overlap. And MiLABS provided some of the overlap on that. Most abductees don't believe that they've been part of mind control, but at the same time, they all seem to exhibit similar syndromes that indicate that there's something common going on. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. There's so much happening at so many different levels with everything. It's mind blowing, to say the least, for myself, who I work with this every day. If somebody comes in my office and I'm removing Lucifer from them, well, I do that every day on everybody. To me, it's like, oh, there's Lucifer again. But you get the normal person, the person who doesn't realize all this stuff, and you start telling them about this, they think you're nuts. Okay? But the reality is there's so much of this out there at so many different levels that even myself, will never understand it. We'll never get to that level. But
I think the direness of the ET problem that's going on right now is very, very well hidden, and they're using a lot of this stuff basically to do their best, and it's to fight it off. But it's a big bureaucracy. They don't give a shit who they're pulling in to use, and so bad, so sad. We got a little blinky light. We can clear his memory and stick him back in his body before, they're almost acting as bad as the ETs, in my opinion, and a lot of it. But I guess it's so dire that they're feeling the need to do this. I think the ET problem's more dire than anyone's letting on. And what you guys were talking about before about disclosure and stuff like that, I think of that, a lot of that's just coming out now to start conditioning people. Like, look at the movies of the last 10 years. Oh, yeah,
no, not even 10 years. Like, go back to Close Encounters of the Third Kind in the first E.T. the Extraterrestrial movie. And look, I don't think for a minute some of the details that Spielberg's put into his movies indicate he knows a lot about this. And I'm sometimes not sure which side of the Kool-Aid stand he's on, but I have a feeling that he knows more about it. And this has been gradual disclosure, which was kind of my point. We've had it for a long time.
You bet. And it's conditioning.
Ultimately, yeah, you don't just go into a cold water, jump in. You get used to the temperature. Now, if all of a sudden it happened, people go like, "Oh yeah, we've known about that." Oh, they're finally saying it. Okay, next channel. Okay, so ultimately they don't want a mass hysteria. They don't want people jumping off of roofs of buildings. They don't want people, rioting and killing other people over this type of thing. So of course, you think realistically that you do have to, slowly incorporate this into somebody's psyche before you just throwing it at you. You don't want
go back to the 30s. Yeah. H.G. Wells in War of the Worlds. I mean, that was a social experiment at the time. And it was a model for what effectively became this very, very long, playing out over 80 or 90 years of gradually bringing this out. But it also interfaces as well with even, I mean, go back into fiction, go back into mythology, go back into even history. If you're able to look at it objectively enough, and you're going to see between the lines of all of this shit has always been here and has always been swept under the rug because humans have been mind controlled.
Since day one.
Since day one, yeah.
You look at Egyptian hieroglyphs. I mean, there's hieroglyphs.
Oh, there's
of all this
bas reliefs
stuff
with those aliens, those big aliens holding little humans in their hands. Tell me something. I mean, were they on acid or what? I mean.
Well, you know, the 20-foot skeletons they're finding, they're unearthing, and of Nephilim. There's all these different things that are unexplainable, and like you said, they hide it under the rug. They just don't make an issue of it. So that I got a good friend of mine is the producer of CBC News in Winnipeg. Okay, and I have a few drinks, and I corner him, and I ask him some questions, and he's like, well, can't go there. Can't go there with that story. They just don't go there with it. A good friend of mine works on a radio station in Winnipeg, a talk radio, and I said, why don't you get me on your show? Well, what do you want to talk about? And I told him, he says, we don't go there. You know, they just certain
it's bad for business. First,
they just don't want that kind of talk. You know, it's just swept under the rug. It's not talked about anymore. Well, now you've got wonderful radio shows like yours and mine that are bringing this out.
Yeah.
It's on the internet. It's like it's not mainstream. And you know how many people are listening to this stuff, Randy? With the last show that you and I did together with Whisper, I've got a lot of calls from people all over the world, from the Middle East, from Russia, all over the place, asking me questions.
Well, that's because we actually are the media now. What's on the satellite dishes and the cable systems, they represent an entertainment industry that's simply selling the fiction. And the hard stuff is coming out through media outlets like this. And it's
real stuff.
Yeah, and it's interesting. They're obviously terrified by it. Now, I got to say this. You know, for the people listening, understand something. This could all go away real fast. I mean, Britain's already playing around with it. There's net neutrality all over the place. They would really like to license everybody who's going to be a broadcaster on the internet if they could. They took down the Pirate Bay, which, you know, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm sorry, that was a symbolic act to take down the Pirate Bay. And we are seeing where there's rumblings in government. The FCC wants to control the internet. In Canada, whatever regulatory agencies you guys have want to do the same thing because we're too bloody inconvenient anymore because we talk about the shit that they won't talk about.
That's ridiculous. Eh?
And people need
Always
to support.
On top of you.
You know, that's why when I talk to some of my listeners and I talk to you, Chris, and I find out that people are coming to you for help, I'm like, yeah, that's what we want to do. Because you've got to support the people that are putting the truth out, however that works, even if it's just emotionally, psychically. I mean, you know, give us a little juice here. Because this could all go away tomorrow, and I don't want it to. I want to blow the lid off of this thing. And there are people who will hear this show, and they're going to go, yeah, finally somebody said it. Somebody else is going to grab a nugget of information out of this show, and it's going to open up a gateway for them to something they've been dealing with for a long time. And there's a lot of people that are just going to think we're flipping delusional, and my response to that is fine. Move on. There's thousands and thousands of YouTube channels and radio stations out there. Find something you like. But this is important stuff, and as wild as it sounds, I you know, sometimes I get on here and I talk to people like you guys, and I'm like, finally I find my own people because I feel free. I can talk about this again.
Well, you know, I do have a lot of clients who, when I talk to them, you can hear a sigh of relief within their voice that finally somebody understands what I'm talking about. Finally, somebody I can talk to about this and not let them think that I'm crazy. There's so many people in my industry, the work that I do, the alternative, whether it's herbs, whether it's homeopathy, whether it's naturopath, whatever, energy, whatever, who are shit scared of saying I can cure cancer. Okay, because as soon as you make a claim, I can cure cancer, all of a sudden you're getting bombarded by the government coming and saying, no, cancer, you cannot talk about that because we need to do chemotherapy and blah, blah, blah. People are shit scared. I fear nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm standing here in front of you. I'm going to say right now on this radio show, I can cure cancer, okay? I can cure anything. If you know what it is, okay? Now it's not I don't have a cure for cancer. I have a cure for your cancer. Because everybody's cancer is different. Everybody's diabetes is different. Everybody's asthma is different. You got to treat the person for what they are, not the badge that they're wearing that the medical community gives you.
Absolutely. Hey, Chris, you did that 1 hour healing on my dad there for his 2 inoperable brain tumors, by the way. I never mentioned it to you. You just had a scan. They're gone.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Sweet.
That's awesome.
I'm getting a tingle all through my body right now. That's the beer talk. Beautiful.
That may be as mind-ripping as anything we've talked about tonight, because I hope it gives somebody that hears this out there hope. And also the initiative to go to Chris's website, which is
chriskehler.net. If you want to book an appointment, not a problem. There's a button on my website on the front page that says book an appointment. You press that button on the computer, it'll bring you into my schedule. You can book your own appointment through BookFresh. If you want to contact me, send me an email. All my contact information is there, and I will get back to you. I will talk to you. I'm not one of these guys that let you sit for a week and make you think I'm too busy for you. No, you're very important to me, and I want to talk to anybody who has anything to say to me.
And I can verify that because I've talked to some of your patients, and I know that to be true. You're very engaged with their needs. Whisper... So I keep wanting to ask you, how are you doing now? I mean, overall, is your life better? Is your quality of life good? Are you able to function? Are you dealing with the psychological and psychic fallout from all of this?
I'm still dealing with it, but yeah, things have improved. Like I'd say I'm probably at 85% right now. You know, so like Chris helped me immeasurably. He got me through a ton of stuff, and then I've picked up actually a lot of the tools that he works with, and he's been kind of training me on how to use them. And I was a healer to start with because I learned a bunch of different healing modalities just to try and help myself over the years, because I was like a 12-year battle with this stuff. And then stuff like we've become friends now, and you know, I'll just pop into the office and he'll work on me for 15 minutes or whatever if he's got a couple of minutes and pull out the latest problem. But like a lot of this stuff has just been Stargates and stuff that he's been getting into as well. It's incredible. He helped me amazingly. Like if you have an abduction kind of scenario, or even think you might have, and your life doesn't seem quite right, or you're having unnatural thoughts or any of that kind of stuff, a lot of times that's all it is. And I'm a big believer in him. Like he helped me immeasurably.
And I would add to that, trust your memories, because a lot of people are fighting off their own latent memories. They don't believe what they remember.
Trust your feelings more than even your memories. If you feel something's not right, a lot of times they've messed with your memory. So
good point. Yeah, they've messed with your timeline too.
Oh yeah, those are interesting because like not everyone realizes how often that's happening, and I think it's happening really often to a lot of people that have no clue that it's happening to them, and they're happily kind of trotting along through the program and not even realizing it. For whatever reason, I've had those veils lifted, so. It's a curse, but what the hell? It's a very interesting way to live and go through life, sort of semi-knowing what's going on and watching, But, it's interesting. But as far as an update goes, a ton of things have improved. So it's I'm feeling really good.
come December 21st, once the solstice comes and goes, and you know, if the prophecy I'm getting is true that the whole program will stop, then things should start to change in a big way for a lot of people.
We're going to get this out real quick, and we'll peg that as kind of a banner headline for this, because it's important, and I think a lot of people sense right now that there are big changes coming, and obviously there's battles going on above us, battles going on below us, and Jesus, battles going on inside of us, and that's why we all need, you know, to open up our consciousness, engage with what's going on, and if you need help, again, you know, the links will be up with this show wherever the show goes, on YouTube, on the different websites we post it to. So Chris's information will be there. And guys, I want to thank you a lot for coming on. I want to thank Hayden, who I know is in the background tonight, for doing the legwork and setting up the interview and tolerating the fact that sometimes I don't do messaging very quickly, and basically orchestrating what has been a fascinating way to end 2014 and kick the door in on 2015, and really, let's just hope that, Chris, your predictions are and your sources are spot on, and that we can kind of see this veil begin to lift, and a lot of people get set free from all of the interference that's been going on. Anything else you guys want to say in closing tonight?
Merry Christmas to everyone. Merry Christmas. I'm going to say it, not happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Make it what it is. Get with your family and get things right, people.
There you go. That's a great idea. And from us here as well, enjoy the holidays. Whichever ones you're celebrating. Tomorrow night's solstice. Take some time to clear your own energies out. We'll be back in 2015 with more. I'm Randy Maugans. This is OffPlanet Radio. The truth is out there. It's inside you.
This is OffPlanet Radio.